Hello. Today we're going to look at comparison tape diagrams. Now, a comparison tape diagram is when we use tape diagrams to compare two or more things. We're going to look at three different word problems and how to solve them using these comparison tape diagrams. So our first problem here is Kim grew 12 roses in a garden. Sarah grew 6 fewer roses than Kim. How many roses did Sarah grow in the garden? So we're comparing the number of roses that Kim grew to the number of roses that Sarah grew. So let's take a look at that. So here's our problem. Now first I'm going to draw my tape. Now I know that Kim grew 12 roses in a garden. So I'm going to draw my piece of tape. And it doesn't really matter at this point how long I make that tape. Now this is Kim. We'll label that. And we know that Kim grew 12 roses. So I'll go ahead and write that in there. Now, Sarah grew 6 fewer roses than Kim. So we know Sarah's tape is shorter than Kim's. Now, it doesn't really matter how much shorter as long as we draw it shorter, because we're going to put Sarah grew 6 fewer roses than Kim, so we do not know how many roses that Sarah grew. However, I do know this distance right here is 6 because she grew 6 fewer than Kim. Okay. It says, how many roses did Sarah grow in the garden? So that's what I don't know right now. Now what a comparison tape diagram does is it sets the problem up and gives me all of my information in a visual form so I can then determine how to solve it. So let's take a look at it. 6 fewer than Kim. Well, if Kim is 12, to find out 6 fewer, I'm just going to subtract the 6. And now I can solve this. Now I can solve this many different ways. So let's look at arrow method. So 12 minus 2 is 10. Minus 4 to take away my 6 would be 6. So 6 roses. So how many roses did Sarah grow in the garden? She grew 6 roses. Okay, so let's look at another problem. It's slightly different. Okay, so let's look at Maria. Maria has 5 more fish in her tank than Shane. Shane has 17 fish. How many fish does Maria have in her tank? So there's our problem right there. So we know we have a tape for Maria and a tape for Shane. Those are the two that we're comparing. Now, I know, here's Maria, and here is Shane. Okay, now I know the length of Shane's tape. Shane has 17 fish. So we're going to draw that there. So it's 17 fish. Okay, so now let's look at Maria. What do we know about Maria? Maria has 5 more fish in her tank than Shane. So we know her tape is longer. Okay, and we know this right here is 5 more. So she had 5 more. So that's 5. Well, this piece of tape, if this length is 17, that tells me that this length is 17. Okay. So, how many fish does Maria have in her tank? Well, if you look, I know this tape right here is 17 fish and 5 fish. So to find Maria, I need 17 plus 5. Okay. Again, I'll just solve this using arrow method. So 17 plus 3 is 20 plus 2 is 22. So 22 fish. Okay. So how many fish does Maria have in her tank? Maria has 22 fish in her tank. So let's look at a slightly more difficult one. So far we did a more than and a fewer. So one involved addition, one involved subtraction there. So now let's look at another situation where we have 3 people. So let's read this one. Nathan, Chloe, and Lucas are stacking blocks. Nathan stacks 16 blocks. Chloe's stack is 5 blocks shorter than Nathan's. Lucas's stack is 3 blocks longer than Chloe's stack. Who has the tallest stack, Nathan, Chloe, or Lucas? Okay. So this is a situation where the tapes will help a lot because there's a lot of information here and it's very easy for students to be confused between the 3 different people here. So let's take a look at them. So we know we have our 3 people. So we have Nathan, Chloe, and Lucas. Okay, and we're going to draw these 3 tapes. Now, Nathan stacks 16 blocks, so we know Nathan. So we'll draw his tape first. So we know that's 16 blocks. Okay. Now, let's look at what we know about the other 2. Chloe's stack is 5 blocks shorter than Nathan's. So we know Chloe, I'm going to start at the same spot. We know that is 5 blocks shorter than Nathan's. So we know this distance right here from this point to this point is 5 blocks. Right? But I do not know how many blocks Chloe stacked. Now what do I know about Lucas? Lucas's stack is 3 blocks longer than Chloe's stack. Okay, so let's look at Chloe's. So I know it starts at the same point. Okay, now I know it's 3 blocks longer than Chloe's. Now what I have to decide is Lucas longer than Nathan? Well, if I go to here, right there, that's exactly the same as Chloe, so I need to move 3 more blocks. Well, this is 5, so I know it's right around there. And I know this is 3 blocks right there. Okay, so Nathan's is 16, Chloe's is 5 fewer or shorter than Nathan's, and Lucas is 3 more than Chloe. So now I just need to figure out each of these. So let's look at some expressions to figure these out. So I know Nathan is 16 blocks. Right? Because I'm figuring out who has the tallest, who has the most blocks stacked. Now Chloe, let's look at what information we have for Chloe. Chloe is, we don't know, but it's 5 less than 16. So I'm going to do 16 minus 5. Well, I have 6 ones. I take 5 away. So it would leave me with 1 1, and I'm not touching that 10. So 1 10 and 1 1 are 11. So 16 minus 5 is 11 blocks. So far Nathan has the most. Now let's look at Lucas. Now Lucas, we don't know, but we do know that he stacked 3 blocks. His is 3 blocks longer than Chloe's. So let's take Chloe's, 11, and we're going to add 3 to it. Because if we know Chloe's is 11, so I'm going to put my 11 in there, well then we also know this is 11 because they're the same length right there. Okay, so 11 plus 3, well 1 plus 3 is 4, and then my 10 there, so this is 14 blocks. Okay, so the question is, who has the tallest stack, Nathan, Chloe, or Lucas? Well, who has the tallest stack? It is Nathan with 16 blocks. Lucas is second, and Chloe is third. So these are just 3 examples of how we can use comparison tape diagrams to solve word problems. Now, if you notice, the tape diagram itself doesn't solve the problem, but it sets up the information so that you can then determine what to do to solve the problem. Do you need to add, subtract, or later on if we would need to multiply and divide when we get to higher grades? Thank you.